As part of his buy-in into the Inflation Reduction Act, President Manchin, sorry about that, Senator Manchin, very easy to get confused these days based on how much Senator Manchin seems to be able to get done, things that Biden seemingly can't get done. But I digress. Manchin was a yes on the Inflation Reduction Act earlier this year that passed with some stipulations. This stipulation was that he wanted to have his own permitting bill passed in Congress at some point later this year. This was sort of the handshake deal. He got the yes on the Inflation Reduction Act after whittling down lots of the bill. Manchin whittling down parts he didn't like, whatever, making the bill more quote unquote moderate, like he does with every single thing that President Biden and the Democrats put up. So once again, President Manchin now, President Manchin, I'm not even saying it on purpose at this point. He is now fighting for this permitting bill to go up for a vote. This bill essentially would make it easier for oil and gas companies and others in the same kind of category to fast track their projects that are going on across the country. Let's get into the piece here this morning from the Washington Post. This story is kind of just unfolding. I saw some of it over the weekend on Twitter. There hasn't been a ton put out on it yet, but the Washington Post this morning put out something that we will read from right now. Headline, Democrats try to salvage Manchin's side deal on energy projects. The House may include a permitting overhaul bill from Senator Joe Manchin in an annual defense policy measure, but challenges still persist in the Senate. The push by Senator Joe Manchin to overhaul the nation's permitting process for infrastructure projects could get some last-ditch help from the House of Representatives in its annual defense policy measure, according to two people familiar with the matter. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been in talks with the Armed Services Committee Chairman Adam Smith, Democrat from Washington, about attaching a version of Manchin's permitting bill to the National Defense Authorization Act, according to two individuals who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe private conversations. New text of the defense bill that includes the permitting bill could be released Monday before the House Rules Committee considers the measure, the people said, although they cautioned the plans were still in flux and subject to change. Manchin and Pelosi did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The effort to salvage Manchin's permitting reform crusade is the latest attempt by Democrats to honor a deal with the senator from West Virginia that secured his vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, a sweeping climate, energy, and healthcare law that President Biden signed in August. Manchin insisted on a follow-up permitting bill as part of the deal, part of his long quest to speed up America's permitting process for energy infrastructure, including the contested Mountain Valley Pipeline, which would transport natural gas about 300 miles from his home state of Virginia to Virginia. But liberal House Democrats objected to the permitting bill, saying it could undermine bedrock environmental laws, while Republicans complained that they were not even consulted, even though the permitting reform is a longtime conservative priority. It goes on, but big note here is that in this permitting bill, it's not anything yet, right? Manchin pushed some of this forward months ago when the Inflation Reduction Act was happening. We do have a PDF from Senator Manchin's website that I combed through this morning. We can pull that up on the screen. I'll read a couple things, but first on the very bottom here, the main thing that Manchin is pushing for here, complete the Mountain Valley Pipeline, require the relevant agencies to take all necessary actions to permit the construction and operation of the Mountain Valley Pipeline, and give the D.C. Circuit jurisdiction over any further litigation. It's also important to note on this document that it calls for revamping Section 401 of the Clean Water Act. From my understanding, this section of the Clean Water Act essentially requires a permitting process and authorization for any projects that discharge anything into bodies of water within the United States. Seems pretty reasonable that you would need permission to dump things into a body of water. It also seemingly deals with like construction projects that have runoff going into American bodies of water, rivers, lakes, ponds, whatever it may be, swamplands and things like that. And these adjustments specifically call for making lawsuits be constrained to a very short period of time, which could be bad when we're talking about keeping water clean. The United States already doesn't have a great track record of clean water, i.e. Flint, Jackson, all sorts of places across the U.S. where this is starting to become more and more of a problem. So to be fast-tracking things going into bodies of water in the United States, whether it be construction debris, chemicals, a pipeline going over a body of water. It seems to be a step in the wrong direction as far as clean water goes. But yeah, let's speed up the process to make it happen faster and faster and faster so that we don't have time to actually look at these things. Seems a little bit backwards to me. Again, this will benefit oil and gas projects, like I said. This permitting process is going on specifically in Senator Manchin's state with the Mountain Valley Pipeline. It will, be beneficial for oil and gas drilling and things like that. Important to note, though, it also will be beneficial for green energy projects as well. If you're going to be building a, solar farm, wind turbines, that sort of thing, it will also help to fast track some of those things. But why would you include, right now, still, the Democrats have control over both chambers of Congress and the presidency. We're in the lame duck session. Yes, they did lose the House for the new House that will begin in January. But right now, Democrats still have the control. Why are you purposefully putting in oil and gas benefits if that's not what you believe in? I could see it's like, okay, now Republicans are in control of the House or something, and you're trying to pass this piece of legislation. Okay, maybe work with them on that and get something done. But you still have the control to do whatever you want. Why not make it the bill that you want? And it's because President Manchin gets what he wants. He goes through. He's not afraid to play hardball, unlike President Biden, and hold up his vote for what he wants to get done. The progressives honestly need to take a lesson, take a page out of the book of Manchin, who doesn't care about standing in the way of legislation until he gets what he wants. Imagine if the Progressive Caucus did what Joe Manchin did on a monthly basis, it seems, whenever a piece of legislation pops up. Manchin goes, well, let's see here. I'm one person and I'm going to only vote for this if this happens. And then there's seemingly no negotiation. And then President Biden will come out and be like, oh, my friend Joe Manchin from West Virginia and I worked together to do exactly what he wanted to do and nothing of what I wanted to do. That's what happens over and over and over again with Joe Manchin. Now, it's important to note that all of this legislation is going to be potentially lumped on to a must-pass defense bill that needs to pass by the end of the year. This is what the Democratic leadership, according to the Washington Post and others this morning, are reportedly going to try to lump this onto. This defense bill is a must-pass, in quotes, piece of legislation. It's a defense bill, so I'm sure it will pass because half of our members of Congress are essentially just waiting for their terms to come up or them to stop running so that they can go sit on a massive defense company's board of directors for $500,000 a year to go to 4 meetings. But so we're pretty sure that this is going to be a bill that passes, whether this provision gets added or not. Again, the reporting this morning is that this is very likely going to end up in this bill. Ultimately, it's still early. We don't actually have the full legislation or anything out. But important to note to me that Democrats, yet again, after the pro-union Democrats fucked the railway workers last week, still no news on Biden's plan to give sick leave for everybody. I doubt that that's going to happen, but instead he just stabbed those union members in the back. Weeks after campaigning all summer on we're going to protect abortion rights, give us donations for them, give us your votes. People all go out and vote for Democrats. Democrats fare way better than they think they're going to in the midterms. And then, President Biden says, sorry, we're not going to be able to do anything about that right now. Thanks for the votes, though. Appreciate it. Just another thing that Biden and the Democrats seem to be folding on. We'll see ultimately how this plays out. Something I am going to start to look into, it takes a lot of time to kind of go through this, is who owns stock. This is a publicly traded company building the pipeline in West Virginia. The company is called Equitrans. I'm going to spend some time this morning looking into potentially if any members of Congress actually own stock in this company. If they don't, I'm sure some members of their family do, to be specifically called out in this, but we're ultimately not going to know if members of their family do because Congress has done nothing on reforming stock trading in Congress. That's a whole other topic for a whole other day. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. We're going to definitely be covering this story. We're going to continue to cover the railroad workers strike, all of that sort of stuff on Status Coup. Check out our live stream later today with Ron Polkonen. I believe Tina is with him today. Subscribe down below. Like this video. Give me a follow on Twitter at LewisD217. And if I find anything out on that stock, if anyone's holding stocks of this, I'll definitely be posting it there. And maybe we'll be doing a video about it here as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.